thank you so much, Mayor Hart from Waterloo, Iowa, for being here with us today. We talk a lot about at SciPlay about creating an environment where people can show up as their authentic selves. They can be supported for who they are, and even conflict can feel very healthy. And so I'm sure as a mayor, that's something you deal with very regularly in leading, the city of Waterloo. And so with Waterloo being one of Iowa's more diverse cities, how have you approached creating kind of that environment where people feel their voice is heard and valued?
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you for having me here today and for this opportunity to talk a little bit more about community leadership and diversity and inclusion. And the incredible work that SciPlay, I've been able to research a little bit about the history of your company, and I'm so impressed and grateful that you are in the Cedar Valley. So that's first and foremost.
Thank you.
But when it comes to just overall the conversation about diversity and about valuing one another, first, I think that you mentioned Waterloo is the most diverse city in the state of Iowa. And I think that's important because we live in a time and a day right now where in some situations diversity is looked at as a threat. But we consider diversity an opportunity, and we consider diversity to be our superpower, right? Because you have different voices, you have to listen to people, you have to work with people, and understanding that just because you may be different or think different in some areas, or you may have different experience, we look at that as richness and a rich opportunity to engage, to talk, to learn from one another. And so we view diversity as our superpower versus the challenges that people believe that may exist with it.
Yeah, I love that. I love turning it into a superpower. And I think we feel the same way. And when you have such a diverse work environment or communities such as Waterloo, you have to rely a lot on the feedback that you get, right? From the community. For SciPlay, it's, our employees' feedback. And so I'm curious the lessons that you've learned in turning that input that you're getting from the community and the things you're hearing into kind of meaningful change.
Right. And sometimes people believe that if a person believes a certain way or they believe different, that person may be wrong or someone is wrong for their beliefs. But what we try to do, one, is to build a culture of trust where people's opinions are valued and that people feel like they're actually being heard, because when we're able to have crucial conversations or difficult conversations at all, it just helps our overall environment. It gives us the ability to be able to learn from one another, to be able to grow with one another. And I think the first thing we need to do that's with trust. But the way that I tend to lead is that I have a broad base of people that I work with and relationships that I've been able to develop over the course of my lifetime. I was born on the northeast side of the community and I worked on the south side of the community. And so, of course, I had all those neighborhood lessons being in a very diverse neighborhood. But, I had really good relationships all throughout the community. Like today, just this last weekend, I was with some of my Bosnian friends, and we were eating food and talking. Then on this past Sunday, I was at the Haitian church as well. I just met with our Marshallese community, and so I really value those relationships and talking to people, breaking bread with people, and getting to understand and know exactly where they're coming from. And so, trust means everything, and being out there and engaged really helps us to create a platform where voices are inclusive.
That's amazing. I love that you're breaking bread and meeting all those different communities.
I gained some weight because at each place I went to, there was a bunch of food. But I was really thinking this weekend of how blessed that I am, right? To be able to live within a community where, different doesn't mean inferior. It means a greater opportunity to dialogue and meet with people and build up coalitions and relationships. So I just thought about how rich I am to be able to have that experience.
That's amazing. Is there a particular program or initiative that came from, feedback from your constituents and the community that you're particularly proud of, that has come to kind of fruition in life?
Well, there's several different programs. One is just overall My Waterloo Days. That is a 40-plus-year-old program where not only we have parades and we have all of those things, but we also have the experiences of bringing different diverse groups together, whether it's small business, whether it's people participating in the parade, whether it's the music talent, whether it is working with young people. But My Waterloo Days has been one that has been inclusive of so many different people. Another opportunity is our Human Rights Commission, where they're able to bring different parts of our community together to celebrate the uniqueness of each community. Another opportunity that we've had recently is the celebration of individual days. We have one of the largest Irish fests in the entire United States right here in the city of Waterloo. We have the Northeast Fest, where we're celebrating diversity, culture, and art for the north side of the community. We have our iBosnia event that we just had, the first one, but that is the ability to be able to celebrate our Bosnian culture. We've had Jamaican Flag Day. We have the largest Haitian art collection in the entire United States right at our Center for Arts. And so I think it is our ability to celebrate people for the culture and diversity they have has really been something that I've really appreciated. But at the same time, I've also grown and learned as well about all the different cultures we have within our community.
As Waterloo has grown, and I think about this in terms of SciPlay, over the last 10 years, we went from 100 to 1,000, but you want to keep that foundational culture and some of those values very consistent, even though you're growing and developing. Right. And so I'm curious, from your perspective of being a mayor, as you're attracting new businesses, new residents, new cultures into the community, how do you maintain a community sense of identity and kind of culture and community through that change and growth?
Well, it comes from just the conversation that diversity is our superpower, and that connects all of the people within our community. That is like our value statement. Another value statement for us is Waterloo considered a community of opportunity, and the very foundation of why people came from all parts of the country. What people don't know about the last century or so, people would come to Waterloo from around the country. They would come to Waterloo from different parts of the world to be able to find work, to be able to raise a family and just build a better life. You have people from every country that are assembled there trying to build a life every day. And so just that initial value statement of who we are as a community, the celebrating of who we are, I think that's very important to us being able to move forward. And then learning to build a culture of trust as well. Organizations change, businesses change, but that core trust is the foundation of everything we do as a city. So valuing who we are as a people, building trust in relationships, and then not being afraid of change.
You talked a lot about values in what you just said, and so there's a lot of challenges in the governmental kind of sector, and so I'm curious how you stay grounded with those values when you face the challenges like political challenges, financial challenges that a city has. Like, how do you stay grounded in that growth and development when you face those challenges?
Well, my mom watches all the council meetings, right? But I mean, part of who the person that I am today was, of course, built off my faith, service, and a lot of humility. I had watched my mom growing up. She literally walked across Highway 63. We counted like 19,000 times to go to Allen Hospital to work. My dad, I don't know if he's ever missed a day of work. And so seeing my parents is all part of my foundation. And that's where I get my work ethic. I'm going to work just as hard as anyone else, but also at the same time, being wrapped in faith. And not that my faith should supersede other people's beliefs, but my faith means everything to me in the hope that I have for my community. And also with humility, understanding that I may not have all the right answers, right? Other people are value added, and being able to appreciate that. But for me, my foundation came from my family and my upbringing to make me the person that I am today.
Mm-hmm. And when you face those, kind of challenges politically or financially, and you've got a list of things that that people want. I mean, we face that here.
Right.
You do an employee survey. There's a lot of different opinions in a business and a community. They have to prioritize what they get done. How do you go through that process of prioritizing? What makes the list?
That's a really good question, and I'm still working on it. Right?
We all are.
Because there are a lot of competing interests. Whether it is, do you build a park over in this neighborhood, or do you build that park there? Do you do a road project over here? But for me, it is planning, long range planning, strategic planning, and that helps me to be able to work with others to create a pathway forward in certain areas. But try to be highly organized, try to do the planning. And then sometimes you also may do projects that people may not like. In that instance, something that I think about is greater good. And for the greater good of a situation, it may not be a popular decision. It may not be a decision that everyone agrees with. But in the greater good of the impact that it's going to have in the future, that's what I kind of hold to. And just because people may not see it in this moment in time in 2025, I know without a doubt in 2027, 28 that these situations, they'll reap the benefits.
Yeah, it's not an easy task.
No, it's not.
I think there's lots of ways to go about that. And obviously we think a lot about long-range planning here at SciPlay, and we're, as an executive team, always thinking about what will serve the business and our employees the best in 2026, 27, 28, and beyond. But sometimes your constituents, I'm sure, and our employees as well, are thinking about today and what they need today to best show up for their families. And so it's a very difficult balance of gaining that input, but also really focusing on the future.
Because sometimes the best decision is not always the most popular decision, right?
For sure.
And being able to balance that, but also taking that feedback, that constructive feedback, that means all the difference. And bringing people to the table, a very diverse group to the table, to help give some conversation has always helped me.
Mm-hmm. One of the things we admire about your leadership in Waterloo is the way you've brought this inclusivity to the community and really focused on real things that matter. We think a lot about inclusivity here at SciPlay, but also face a lot of headwinds in that. And so I'm curious, what are the challenges, what are maybe one of the biggest challenges you faced in, or headwinds of that inclusive change in Waterloo?
Well, one of the challenges coming into this position, taking a look at the entire community and seeing some areas where it hasn't progressed as much as some of the other areas in the community. And I've been trying to develop an equity mindset when it comes to community development and community upbringing. Because sometimes people think that equality and equity are the same words. Equality is you have $5, I have $5. The challenge is you may need $10 in a situation, I may need $1. But how do we create equitable situations? How do we lead with an equitable model of leadership to be able to change age-old problems? Another example. Historically, the city has had 5 wards. Some of our wards had, let's say Ward 1 had 50% roads that need to be improved. Ward 5 may have had 20%. Ward 3 may have had 70% that needs new roads. Equally, we used to give the same amount of money to each ward per year. But the challenge is that model doesn't really work because those with less less roads that are needing repair in those wards, they continue to get better while the other roads in those wards get worse. And so we started focusing on dealing with the worst to try to help bring those areas up to where they need to be. And so it's trying to develop an equitable model of leadership. Equality is great, and we are all in support, but how can we make sure that we're able to bring all of the areas up together, because different areas need different things. And so it's trying to work to create that model. That's the challenge, right? Because there's only so many dollars in a city budget to do things. There's only so many people that are working at a certain time. And so always trying to find that balance of the resources versus the need in particular areas so that we can get people exactly what they need to have the standard of life they desire.
I've seen the equality, equitability visualized in a graphic. I'm not sure if you've seen it. It's children kind of trying to look over a fence, and it's equality is everyone gets the same size step stool, but equitability is really how high of a step stool do you need to be able to look over the fence, and so it's a really good visualization of what I think communities and organizations are trying to do, and just determining how they support the workforce and the community that they have. So, all this change that you're trying to bring, change is slow. I'm sure I don't need to tell you that. And I'm sure you've got lots of people banging on your doors, hey, why is this not happening yet? How do you keep people motivated on that long range vision when the change day over day, or even sometimes year over year, feels very slow?
Well, I'm still working on that. So if SciPlay has the
we don't. I was hoping
that.
You did.
but one is the going back to our strategic planning and our goals. The city of Waterloo, after COVID, decided to ask the question, instead of just limping out of COVID, how do we take a leap from the challenge of COVID and shutdowns all across our communities? So after that, the next 2 years or so, we worked to create the 2030 vision plan, and it was Waterloo, a community of opportunity. And there's 8 big ideas that we're focused on by 2030. And so each one of those pockets of those 8 ideas, we communicate those. We give updates on where we're at. I do the state of the city to communicate with people. But I try my best to let people know exactly what we're doing when we're doing it. We probably increased our reach by hundreds of thousands of people through our online presence, to being on the radio, to being on television, but being a little bit of everywhere to communicate those goals. And so we've made a great attempt. We still have a long way to go, but it is communicating what those goals are and letting people know. If you can't do it at this moment, just communicating and let them know. And so hopefully there's some understanding, but sometimes, people want what they want when they want it.
Yeah, for sure. I think it is about communication and transparency as well, especially in times of change. You talked about COVID, and we went through that as well as an organization, and we were communicating, more than we've ever communicated, because we were so, not in touch with each other because we weren't physically, together at that time. So,
and then also to add to that point, it is our ability not just for people to adapt to us, but for us to be able to adapt to where people are at.
Meet them where they are.
Pretty much. And I would have never thought that my mom, 85 years old, would actually finally have an iPad, and that iPad she would be watching it to watch church online or watch council meetings, right? I didn't think that change would ever come, right? But it has, and so it changed up the way that we communicate with people and our reach. And so it's always adjusting to meet people exactly where they're at, instead of saying you need to come to where we're at. we're going to adapt and go to where you're at to communicate our goals and our progress as well.
So as we wrap up, I could keep, this has been amazing, I keep talking forever, but want to end on a bit of optimism, because even, when there's challenging times, I think when we have leadership like yours that communicate this vision and have this empathy for the experience that people are having, I think anything is possible. So I'd love to ask you a couple of questions as we end.
Is this a speed round?
This is a speed round. No, what gives you the most hope right now about Waterloo's future?
The most hope, so I can talk about the indicators, right? Over $300+ million in permit value, thousands of jobs to our community. Waterloo Fiber now is going to every neighborhood. So we've seen incredible results from all of the investment that we made over the last 10 years. But outside of that, indicators are great, but my faith in who we are as a community, my faith in that we have so much more potential as a community, and I know that our best days are ahead of us. And so it is my faith and the indicators that kind of guide me on that path. And I just believe we have an incredible city with so much potential and so much to be thankful for. And sometimes we miss what we have right in front of us, thinking about what we don't have. But when I look at our community and the growth that we made, and I'll say in the last 10 years since I sat in this seat, it's been a phenomenal change for our community.
And if you had one piece of advice to give to leaders, whether you're leading in a community or you're leading in a workplace like SciPlay, what would that advice be?
My position is a little bit different in that I'm in the public sector with regards to this, but I'll just say that I understand that the role that I play, that it's not just about me. It is a larger picture, and I am a part of that. The moment that whatever you do starts to become only about you, and I'm not saying don't take care of yourself on the job, I'm not saying don't work for your mental health on the job or try to be paid like you should, but the moment your decisions only become about you is when your productivity can start to falter a little bit. And so in my role, I always have to try to think of the greater good. I always think about outside of just my own personal feelings, and I try to let that guide me and lead me to get the results that I need to have for people. It's a tough time right now, and people are paying more for less. And so all of those things wrap into my mind when I start to make decisions for people. It is about the greater good, and it's not just about my own self.
Love that. We talk a lot about servant leadership here at SciPlay, and that marries up very well. So.
Also, get to work first and leave last. Work as hard as you can. Work out work, and that's the way I approach it too. So I couldn't forget that part.
Yeah, of course. Well, I can't forget this part. I'd probably be kicked out of SciPlay if I didn't ask you. We're a games company, so we're always curious. Do you play games? If you play games, do you play games on your phone?
I only play SciPlay games.
That's the best answer I've ever heard. I'm going to send you links to all of our games to make sure that you play those.
Okay, I got you.
No, thank you so much for sharing your
Thank you.
insights today. It was truly a pleasure to have you here at SciPlay and just hear your insights on how inclusion and empathy and listening to your community, whether that's in a business or, in the public kind of sector, can be valuable. So I just really appreciate it. And it was so great to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Absolutely.